Thanks for staying with us. Welcome back. This is Daybreak. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. On my immediate right is Professor Peter Kagwanja, the CEO of the Africa Policy Institute. Good morning, Prof. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
This is our first show of the year.
This is our first show of the year.
40 days since we did the last show.
That's true. Wow. 40 days?
Exactly 40 days.
Wow, wow. Just like, you know, in Christianity, 40 days is so significant.
The fasting period?
It's everything is 40. You're supposed to go to Israel from Egypt by 40 days, but you took 40 years.
Okay. Dr. Kenneth Omoko joins us here, Associate Dean, the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, the University of Nairobi. Good morning, Dr.
Morning, Ayub.
And good to have you.
Pleasure to be here.
Asante.
In the new year. In the fast-changing world around us.
A lot has happened.
A lot.
Including your meeting with Professor Mahmoud Mamdani.
Yes, with the slow poison in East Africa. Yeah.
A gripping read.
Yes.
Senior Counsel Nelson Harvey also joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Senior Counsel, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Good to see you.
And congratulations on the conferment.
Thank you so much.
Senior Counsel now. Okay, gentlemen, a lot has happened. And shortly we'll be joined by Professor Noah Midamba, who is a senior associate at Glossip and commentator on foreign policy and security. Let's begin with what happened in Davos as we dovetail, gentlemen, with the events of the world starting in December 2025 and into 2026. And here is what the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, said in Davos in Switzerland.
We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful, and American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals. And we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
Senior Counsel, beginning with you.
Yes.
Seems that is the starting point, an end and a starting point of another new world order, isn't it, given the submissions made by the Canadian Prime Minister?
Integration being the source of insubordination. That's the key word that I could pick from what the Prime Minister said. And if you look at page 12 of the Standard, we have a caricature of Donald Duck, my friend, the President of the United States of America, and my other friend, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Israel. And here he says, relax, we'll make Gaza great again. I think the world has never been made deplorable as it is right now than ever before.
Yeah.
When you invited me yesterday, I was wondering, what are we going to discuss about the world order? Then I remembered as I grew up, we had a world order. You could hear of people like Klaus Kinkel from Germany. You could hear of people like James Baker from the United States, Eduardo Shevardnadze, and the great Baroness Linda Shoka. And even here in Africa, the Commonwealth was very impactful. The last Secretary of the Commonwealth I remember is Chief America Nyauku. I don't know whether it is because people are losing interest in the world order or the world order is degenerating. I think the latter is the truth. And maybe it may be a good idea because it may portend an opportunity for a new world order. But I think it's going to cause a lot of turmoil economically, politically, and fundamentally, as far as international peace is concerned. Yeah. And the recent events in America and its neighbors is just indicative of what can happen. But worse still is the inability of the entire world to rein in on any single country, worst of all, the United States of America.
Yeah. Dr. Mbongi, of course, fundamental issues and very many facets in how to look at this. But first, as he had said in the full speech, the Prime Minister, can we imagine a world without America as the moral global policeman as once touted, to now an outward America that has little or no regard for international law and order?
Well, that's a fascinating question, Ayub. But before I answer it directly, let me weigh in what Wakili is calling world order. You are calling it new world order. I don't know how new it is, nor do I know how ordered it is, but sometimes there's too much disorder around us when you look at the events of recent months, to the point that you wonder whether it is disorder that we are calling order globally. When a country walks into another one and takes an independent country's president and puts a puppet there, I don't know which order we are talking about. When a nation decides that part of what we have called Somalia for years, it is now an independent country, I don't know which order we are talking about. I mean, when the Canadian Prime Minister talks about more rupture than transition, I think he has a point. The world has gone through what he calls asymmetrical trade relations. So all this put together, for me, speaks more to disorder than what we are calling order. And this is not new. The world has been here before. It's only that we have changed labels over the years. Some years back we were calling it the Cold War. And then after that, President Bush Sr., called it a new world order where America will show the way. And that now brings me to your question. Can the world do without America? There's no direct answer to that. As we stand, they enjoy military superiority, as it were. But the rest of the world is also showing that, they can, in certain ways and very quickly, match what America is doing. But the America we are seeing now is an America that cuts across, and Prof is here, is more vast with international relations of the contemporary world, and more to diplomatic history. But we are seeing an America that is following a fairly confused foreign policy. That is a mixture of what I see as containment, Prof wanting to control the world, particularly the Western Hemisphere, which has been America's field of play for years, and also a policy of isolationism, where America is withdrawing from the world and looking inward. but doing it in ways that we have never seen before. You know, less diplomatic, more rabble-rousing than one could expect. So the point that I'm putting across, Ayubu, is there are ways we can do without what America is doing to the world today. We appreciate the contribution that the men and women of America have done over the years. But what we are seeing now is probably, quote unquote, a luxury we can do without, if you ask me.
Yeah. Prof, coming to you. It seems very interesting and very puzzling episode, is it, given events that have happened, and as pointed out also by Senior Counsel Harvey on the situation in Gaza, the cartoon on page 12 of the Standard, and what happened in Venezuela. And did, at any given point, did it hit your thinking that such a serious standoff on trade and on sovereignty of a region or a country in Europe would happen between America and the European continent, given the transatlantic relations they had for a very long time?
I think we are living in very interesting times. I say interesting guardedly. First, I think we need to know where we are coming from, and that's what the Prime Minister of Canada was trying to capture for us, that we are coming from a quarter century of, you know, relative stability and cordial, you know, great power relations. A very, very sharp contrast to what we have experienced in the previous decades during the First World War, Second World War, and much of the Cold War. And that is essentially what the American political scientist Francis Fukuyama was celebrating in his End of History and the Last Man. And what Fukuyama was really celebrating was the rise of the liberal international order. It was a very ideological world that assumed that everybody in the world is liberal. Obviously, the argument was that we share some certain universal values like human rights, we share democracy, we share free markets, and we also share the love for nature and the environment, and that we want basically to live in that kind of harmony. Then, you know, we said we are going to anchor that whole thing on the equality of nations. And the equality of nations means that within the United Nations, we will exercise multilateralism. And with that multilateralism, then countries have responsibility to protect the values we've talked about. And that limited the sovereignty of nations, including the United States itself, that if you are on the wrong of these values, then anybody can intervene for the sake of the general good. And because America was the superpower, then it became the hegemonic power that was dispensing what we call public goods. And global public goods were seen. And that's what the Prime Minister was talking about, the free, you know, sea lines, markets and all. What has happened from 2014, the time Donald Trump and others started campaigning, we saw a changing world at that time. So the world has not just, I mean, radically changed. It started changing from around February, March 2014. And how is it changing? We started seeing big nations invading smaller nations, even annexing others. And from that point, we entered what we are now calling the New World Disorder. And the New World Disorder is basically characterized by anarchy. Whether you are talking about social media or you are talking about diplomacy. Whether you are talking about industry or you are literally talking about the peasant farms. Everything is anarchic. Then we are talking about turbulence. And we have entered a world where might is right. It is no longer a question of equality of nations. Might is now right. And bigger nations are now talking about nations first. Sovereignty insists and is asserted in its crudest form. This is what we are going through. Populism. People basically making news from talking the absurd. And Trump makes news by basically saying what should not be said in news. And even Americans are shocked, are shell-shocked
about themselves. Some don't even believe, they're pinching themselves to really believe that they're Americans, that they knew. The world has changed. And the changing date and the hour and the minute was the invasion of Venezuela. That sounded the death knell for the old liberal international order. Then Gaza and the triumphalism of Netanyahu about the new Gaza and new Israel and all what they're calling the Greater Israel. And us in Africa are beginning to feel the heat when they now begin to invade Somaliland in the name of recognition. They're not recognizing, basically, they are taking over the sea routes in the Red Sea. Yeah. That's essentially what they're trying to do, that you want to occupy the Gulf of Yemen so that you can throw bombs left, right, and center into the Indian Ocean, into Yemen, into Iraq, and so bringing the Horn of Africa, turbulent as it is, into the new war. Of course, we have seen the new wars, the trade wars, and all that. So the contrast between the speech of the Prime Minister of Canada and Trump basically told you how far we have gone from what is right. But the good news is that for the first time, the world as a whole, from Europe to Africa to Asia, America to Asia, is now united in defense of certain values. And Africa finds itself quite isolated, very isolated in terms of its unilateralism. Might can never be right.
Okay. Senior Counsel, is it also astonishing that it's the American president who, in modern day today, in contemporary world, is emboldening the rise of strongmen, that he's causing up to dictators and monarchs, cares less about human rights, democracy, as Prof has mentioned. And what does this then mean of such a big democracy which has had influence even at the United Nations level to the extent of funding and also operationalizing some of its critical agencies? Are we in that dire point of requiring possibly a substitute to the American hegemony?
The starting point is it is doubtful whether the world can be complete without the United States of America. I mean, even the United Nations, the world order as we know it, is a creation of the United States of America. But the presidency of President Donald Trump is a converse to many presidents we've had in the United States of America. The United States of America, through its presidents, has always provided a model for a good world order, a model for good governance. Often, it was the United States of America that took the front lead to determine the affairs of either the world, a region, a continent, or even an individual country, insofar as the rule of law and democracy was concerned. But we're seeing the total opposite here. Is what Donald Trump doing right now what will have been done by Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan? Well, Bush Sr. had the preponderance of doing some of what Donald Trump is doing, because he orchestrated the greatest coups in Africa and many other developing countries then. But that is an exception to the general rule. As a matter of fact, a majority of the American presidents have been individuals of great values. To a large extent, many of them were generals. A majority were lawyers. Some were historians. But you saw a world order that was almost predictable. The greatest problem the world suffers right now is the unpredictability of President Donald Trump. His inability to realize that he holds a lofty position, one that requires wisdom and oversight, not just insofar as his administration is concerned, but the legacy that he leaves behind. You understand? Yeah. So to that extent, this danger, this great failing. You know, there was excitement when he picked Maduro. Some were saying perhaps he could come and pick Samia Suluhu, perhaps he could come and pick Yoweri Museveni. He won't do that, because his aggression against Maduro was specific to an economic interest. It was not intended to make the world better.
And which he said it...
Yeah, it was not even intended to make the United States of America better. In there lies certain individual interests that are inconsistent with the office of the President of the United States of America.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Yes.
Yes. Just a small thing to what Wakili is saying. Wakili seems to suggest in some ways that America is indispensable. But Wakili, history teaches us, and I'm a student of the British philosopher Arnold Toynbee, civilizations come and
go.
America is here, it will go tomorrow. You know, there's a time the world was dominated by the Greeks, and they gave us democracy the way we know it today. They went. The Romans came in. Where are they? At some point in part of the 17th and, the 18th and 19th century, 2/3 of the world belonged to the British Empire. And that's the time when Winston Churchill could say the sun never sets in the British Empire, because when it was day in one part of the British Empire, it was night in another. Although some German minister told him, yes, the sun never sets in the British Empire because God does not trust you in darkness. Yeah, so America will not dominate the world forever. I don't have to be a prophet to see that. Its moral grip of the world, clearly, it is declining. When you see America retreating from moral universalism, and Prof say that, and now getting into a point where, you know, the universal summon that used to come from America has now declined into a solitary demand of the world to look at America. It doesn't. Nationalism has become a substitute for leadership of all the places in the United States, and it's become a paradox of power without persuasion, which America enjoyed in the previous years. So I can see, and I'm not a prophet, I'm too young, according to my culture, to be one, but I can see America declining.
But sir, we also pray
and then one day historians will sit and say what I'm saying about the Romans, and what I'm saying about the Greeks, and what I'm saying about the British.
Okay. Prof, I have a very specific question for you in relation to the messaging, because the national security strategy by the Trump administration is very specific on its needs globally, an approach with regards to policies. But allow us to also welcome on the broadcast Professor Noah Midamba, GLOSEP's Senior Associate and Commentator on Defense and Foreign Policy. Good morning.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Pleasure to have you.
And it's so nice to see Avi with this beard.
Yeah.
And then we have Ubongi, and then this man from Morang, I always follow everywhere.
Yeah. And while you are away, he has been conferred with Senior Counsel title.
Yes.
So it's a privilege that you are sitting beside him, and he's sitting beside you.
How did I end up here?
So let's take a break, gentlemen. Come back. We have an hour to run through the remaining part of this conversation here on the broadcast as we expound on the consequences of the American action following what Donald Trump did in last year, December, and the bearing this will have on the African continent given the Israeli recognition of Somaliland, and as Professor Kagwanja had put it, then the Strait of Hormuz as well as Bab al-Mandab and the proximity to Yemen and the larger Middle East, the consequences this will have for the Horn of Africa region here on the broadcast. The hashtag is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We're back with more after the break here on the broadcast. Stay tuned.